Welcome to our family of duplicate bridge. Dr. Norman James practices medicine in Chicago, and he also practices traveling all over the United States to capture bridge awards. Norman, paint a picture of your bridge beginnings and include who introduced you, please.
Yes, this goes back to the late 60s when I was in college at Rutgers. Uh, Several of the students played bridge and they taught me the game of bridge. It was rubber bridge, a different bridge than we play now, but I still was fascinated by the game and I was instantly hooked into it. So anytime anybody wanted to play bridge, count me in, I was on it. So after I graduated from college, I didn't play bridge. I moved to New York and then eventually to Chicago. But about 10 years later, I went to a kind of reunion from college and we played bridge during the reunion. So that reintroduced me to it. I said, oh, when I got back to Chicago, I said, I got to teach people to play bridge so I can play this game. So I taught my wife. At the point I was married, I taught my mother and a brother and a couple of sister-in-laws. So we would have little social family bridge games, usually once a week for many, many years. But like I said, that was a different bridge. But in the mid 80s, I moved and I told someone I played bridge, and they came to my house and played a bridge, and they said, "What kind of bridge is this?" That's the bridge I know. And they said, "Oh no, you have to come to Chicago. We have a bridge class, and you can really learn real bridge because this is not bridge." So my wife and I took classes. You may know of Bobby Caldwell. This is the teacher there in Chicago, and he taught me contract duplicate bridge, which is what the bridge we play now. So it's a different bridge, and I've been playing that ever since that time.
Interesting. Share with us two things. One, bridge and bid whiz similarities. Two, your preference and why.
Okay, I don't know if you know that, but bridge evolved from whist. Whist was a partnership card game that was introduced in England in the 18th century, 18th and 19th century, and then it evolved to bridge like the turn of the 20th century, late 19th century and early 20th century. So both are partnership card games. But in whist, you make one bid and that's it. But in bridge, you can make multiple bids until you get three passes. But in those bids, you're communicating to your partner more about the cards you have in your hand, and also you get a better idea of what contracts you can accomplish. So I tell people bridge is bid whist on steroids. So it's a more involved, more intricate game, but they have some similarities. And what was the
Bid
other
whist,
question?
I'm sorry. Bid
Sorry,
whist
brother.
on steroids.
Good
I
bridge on
love it.
steroids, yes.
I had 20 years plus of this great time, but you've had about 40 or 50 years of it, Norm. Can we hear a few especially fond memories?
Well, I would say, well, I didn't start playing in bridge tournaments till 2003 when I joined the American Bridge Association. And I think it's my second national tournament. I was a new player, considered a novice new player. My partner at that time was Leif Sorensen, and we were playing. And then the new players had their own room in these national tournaments. We played in our own room, and we had a good game. And we came as a double session pair game. And then later on, we came out to the big room where all the other advanced players were, and someone made an announcement that one of the new players, Norman James and Leif Sorensen, scored at 89% on the game. And everybody's, ooh, ooh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I said, what's that? 89%. Okay. But apparently we scored 89% of the boards, we had the highest score. So I guess that was a phenomenal thing. So that stands out in my memory. Another time was when I started teaching bridge. Maybe 10 years later, I started teaching bridge. because my bridge teacher said, Norman, it's time for you to teach. You don't have to come to class anymore. I want you to teach a class. I started teaching class. And one tournament, three of my students were a family, and they presented at the tournament. There was a husband and wife, and their teenage son were all bridge students, and they kudos to me as their bridge teacher, and I was so humbled by that magnificent thing that they would actually point me out as teaching them bridge. So I was really proud of them as a family of bridge students. So that stands out in my memory of bridge experience.
89%. I'm not going to ask you how many more times you had that percentage. That is awesome. Wow.
Probably never, never achieve
It's
that.
definitely
I'm
fun.
happy if I get 70%.
Yes, and that's actually high.
That's a great game. Yes.
Absolutely. I'm impressed. So it's definitely fun and competitive. Are there any other more or any other benefits?
Well, as I said, bridge it's a it's a game where you use all kind of cognitive skills, and actually it's very instrumental, and particularly as our seniors, it actually helps delay dementia and improve your mind because you have to use memory, you have to use communication skills, you have to communicate with your partner, you have to analyze. So that really involves your intricate nerve pathways in your brain, keeps them functioning, keep them active and communicating. So it uses all of those cognitive skills, memory, analytical skills, communication, and also socialization. You're socializing, particularly when we're playing face to face. It's a social game as well. So all those skills help keep your mind intact, help delay dementia, and keep you functioning on a very long, happy course.
Great answers, Dr. James. And the research validates all that he said. How has technology affected your game?
Well, technology really came in when we had the COVID pandemic. We couldn't play face to face because that's really my only experience up to that point was face to face bridge. So we couldn't play face to face bridge. So I started playing online on BBO, and that was fun. That was enjoying, kept my skills up and enjoy that. So that was part of technology that really has impacted bridge, and that was helpful because a lot of times when you can't play face to face, you can play online. So that continues those positive effects of playing the game and then your enjoyment of the game and actually your progression and your advance your skills in the game too. So technology is very helpful in this game of bridge, and I appreciate it.
Do you prefer face or online bridge?
I still prefer face to face. Yes, I'm always happy. Anytime I can play face to face, I will try to do that.
I've got to say this. I was in Chicago and the temperatures were in the teens. St. Louis closed their games. Chicago said, yeah, we're going to have it. Then it started snowing. Yes, they still played bridge, snow and temperatures in the teens. So kudos to Chicago.
Thank
One
you.
more question, Norm. What advice might you lend to a new player striving for success?
Well, the advice I would give is advice that was given to me as a new player. My teacher said, play as often as you can, take a class, read a book, go over what you've learned, particularly with your partners, so that they will be on the same page. Because you can't play bridge by yourself. It's you and your partner. So you have to involve your partner in that. And sometimes my teacher would have mentoring sessions, particularly before we would go to the national tournaments. she would have come to our house and say, come over and we're going to go over some hands and practice, ask questions. So I tell my students to practice with their partners, discuss with their teachers, and that will always improve their game and their enjoyment of the game and their advancement in this game that we love.
Thank you, Dr. Norman James, Chicago Bridge teacher and Northern Section Scholarship Chairperson. All persons can begin class or continue, reflecting about our beloved passion, duplicate bridge.
Great. Thank you for having me.